Happy January 6th. It's interesting. I just was listening to some people. They're, making fun of the established media or the main midstream media or whatever you want to call them, mainstream, and they're portraying of January 6th as almost like a pseudo holiday, um, or memorial type day, and comparing it to days like September 11th, Pearl Harbor, JFK assassination. Which this is where you get off in the cuckoo land. It's like, okay, if we can just keep this not so hyperbolic. I mean, people walked into the Capitol. Maybe there are a few drunk people that did, but the only thing in common that, let's say, Pearl Harbor, JFK, and September 11th had is the fact that some of the same people might have been involved, or same organizations. And if you don't know what that means, I'm talking about the government itself, with either prior knowledge of an attack, or various parts of the government colluding with other nefarious organizations to kill somebody, or colluding with other governments to allow other nefarious people within the government to take down certain buildings. Because, I mean, it all seems fishy. Once you look into this stuff, like really look into it, and I'm not trying to be conspiratorial on this channel. It's supposed to be more news and financial analysis, but it's hard to get away from it, because now, the more you delve into this stuff, the more you realize that's the reality of where we live. When it comes to, all you have to do is look at some of the things that just don't jive, like the investigations. I mean, it used to be, a lot of people didn't believe when other people like myself and high-profile individuals brought up agent provocateurs. They didn't believe it when the Wall Street protests after 2008. They didn't believe that, but it was well documented. But now people are waking up. So all you have to do is look at this kind of stuff. The fact that the FBI and its ilk, I mean, this is one organization that's corrupt in the government. One of the, what they say, or law enforcement or intelligence organizations within the government that is corrupt, or parts of it. I mean, obviously not entire organizations are, but there's a lot of compartmentalization. There's people that have these inclinations to power and have power trips. There's even groups. There's ways to justify these actions. But anyway, the FBI, it's well known. I mean, and you can just infer based on their own actions and whatnot, that a lot of these people, even groups that I like, Oath Keepers, was not bad if you looked at them. They weren't that bad of an organization. Or like the Proud Boys. I mean, I know people have their own deal on that, but it turns out, the leadership in both those organizations is presumably FBI informants. When you look at it, there's a lot of FBI informants or possibly agents running around in the crowd. They tend to do that like they did in after 2008. They are the leading edge. If you've ever done any kind of riot control training or whatever, there's always that one person that like kind of sets the crowd off. And they tend to be that. They tend to lead people into doing weird things. And maybe they would have done it anyway. And maybe that's how they justify it. But they do it. They entrap these people. And sometimes they actually do things that are more illegal than just that. But, so we know that, when it comes to like the Michigan thing where they were supposedly going to kidnap the governor, that upwards of almost half of those people were either informants or FBI agents. That's what we can conclude from that. We know that a lot of the Jan 6 stuff, there were presumably agent provocateurs, agents within the crowd there that were trying to egg on people to do things. We also know that in other instances that these people were there when they had they had another gathering to like commemorate or whatever, or something like that. It's a notorious memes now of presumably the FBI agents are there hanging out and they're like a keg, and to me they look like second lieutenant Marines from Quantico. That's what they look like to me. And then there's also the FBI Academy there, but just so happens it's right there. So I'm just saying that you need to look at this a little bit differently, and I'm saying the Jan 6 is not that big a deal. While they walked onto the Capitol, and I wish they'd have got something out of it. Instead of now it's like a calling for the left So you can't relate that. It wasn't the way to go about it for sure. There's other ways to actually invoke some kind of change, but this is not comparable to losing 3,000 people to losing 3,000 people, whether it be in the consequence of that attack in like December 7th, 1941, the war that we then got into, or September 11th, the 3,000 people lost there, and the war we got into, and the hundreds of thousands of lives that were lost, millions over those two wars. The tragedy of that, the tragedy of the attack on the nation, you cannot compare that to January 6th. The only thing, this is more like a tragedy in the fact that it's giving the left a call to action in order to be able to subvert some of these organizations that are more in line with the Constitution. So Biden is right in the sense that this is an attack on the Constitution, in the fact that it is like a rights dogfire attempt to subvert the Constitution in order to take out the people that want to protect the Constitution and to make them pariahs, and some others in a scheme to eliminate constitutional protections and to have us forget the fact that we do have certain natural rights, certain things that make us human, and to allow us to be even further detached to the principles of the nation, which are constraining the government from intervening within our lives and getting involved with us, and allowing us to actually live lives of free choice and free will, and to serve gods outside the state. Because this is like, you really see who is worshiping this golden calf of the state with this. But anyway, I'm going to leave it there. But happy January 6th. Apparently this is a big deal, and it's not to me. I'm more worried about the markets and how we're seeing the 10-year pop a little bit. Not astronomical yet, but it is getting up there, and it's going to have an effect on certain risk assets, especially in the market when you're looking at tech stocks or these other companies. We call the COVID companies, maybe not necessarily pharma to extent until it starts bringing the whole thing down. But you start looking at these, and you have to evaluate that. And there are huge funds or whatever that are going to be looking at those risk parameters and whether or not to be in, whether they believe this is going to be a collapse, or whether just to get that yield and move assets back and forth. But anyway, peace out.